Every once in a while, I miss the old web, where random experiments you could never have even thought of just appeared all the time. As much as new tools and technologies have made it easier to make websites, I feel like the fun ones have kind of vanished. Flash was a bastion of really crazy, fun, exciting new things you could experience every day when you opened your browser. It's been a while since I felt that way. I did feel this way again recently, though, with a really exciting project. This might not seem that crazy, but I promise you this is a wild ride. We're talking about 1 million checkboxes. What is 1 million checkboxes? It's just what it sounds like. It's 1 million checkboxes. It's a website that had 1 billion checkboxes. What's interesting about it is that set of checkboxes is shared across every person on the site. So when I check a box, it's checked for everyone else there. Same with unchecking. This almost became something like the Reddit place board where people could draw things and try to maintain them and people were fighting constantly and battling it all out. It's similar in that sense, but it was its own website. I don't know if it's still up. I think he might have taken it down because it was brutal to run. Yeah. This was a really cool project. And at the time, seeing so many people playing this together was unbelievable. And he shut it down once every single box had been checked at least once. But the process to get there was absolutely crazy. He's done a phenomenal job of documenting everything throughout. And he even made his first YouTube video to tell the story. And I want to go through all of that with y'all. I already reached out to Nolan. He was really excited about this. I'm so excited to see his video and to hear the story in depth. This is the closest to the old web I've seen in a long time. And I want to go through this with y'all. So let's do it. This is the original blog post. This will give us the context of what happened and then the chaos that ensued afterwards we'll get to right after. I made a website. It's called 1 million checkboxes. It has 1 million checkboxes on it. Checking a box checks that box for everyone, and it makes some numbers go up. You can find it at 1millioncheckboxes.com. Why? I don't really know. This idea came up in a conversation with my friend Neil. This is Neil fun, right? It has to be. There's no way this isn't. Of course it's fucking Neil. Of course. There's no world in which this type of brain isn't friends with the other people with it. Like, on one hand, I was praying internally that maybe we finally had like a whole separate place where Neils were being created. But it seems like Nolan here already is in that circle. I would kill to have another corner of the web that created people like this. But it seems like this corner is still the same one. It's awesome because he's not alone in coming up with these things, that he can be friend with Neil. If you guys don't know Neil, you have to. Some of the most incredible web experiences I've ever seen. Infinite Craft is the one that most recently went viral, where you have elements and you combine them and it becomes things. And then you can access these things once you've created it once, over and over again. And I think it's using AI, and it says, like, what would these things combine into? And then it comes up with a different word, and it keeps a key value store of every combination, so it can check for that combo, so you don't have to run the compute every time. But now we have a really fun game. And like even like random non-tech YouTubers, like I know Ludwig was doing speed runs of this. Like, who could speed run to these specific words? And there were bonus points. If you create a word that no one's done before, it will have a new discovery thing on it. This is so cool. Infinite Craft, I almost made a video just breaking down how it works because it was so fucking cool. I love it. It's such a cool project. And to even come up with things like that requires a very special type of brain that I'm jealous of and I do not have. And the author of this is very similar. And I'm pumped that he has a friend that is like this, because doing this, I can't imagine being alone like this. Anyways, here are a few fun tricks that he used to make this work. To efficiently store the state, he used a bit array. Checking box 0 just flips the first bit in that array. This is a fun point. Remember this. He's using a bit array to store these values. I accidentally skimmed through some of how crazy this was before. This comes up later. Keep that in your head. He stored the state in Redis since Redis calls can easily flip individual bits of a value. I didn't know that. That's cool. He broadcasts individual toggle updates via WebSockets and pushes out a full state snapshot every 30 seconds or so to make sure that clients stay synced. He also uses React Window to avoid rendering checkboxes that aren't in the view. Clever. If you're not familiar with React Window, it's a package for virtualizing what section of the page is visible. So if you're not in a specific scroll area, it just won't render those components. Virtual scrolling, it's hard to do. Window does it really well. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Not much. This was fun and fast. I did run into one bug that was baffling. I'll tell you about it real quick. When we toggle a checkbox, the server does something like this. Bit set index value. Pretty simple. This is the original implementation. This.size is size, this.bits, new uint32, math.ceil, get to get a value, set to set a value. No, look at what we get for each of these implementations when we set the first bit. So we start it, we have these, then we insert 2. Our Python implementation treats bit 0 as the leftmost bit of the leftmost byte. In JavaScript, we're grabbing the rightmost bit of the leftmost byte. What? Oh. So a byte's 8, and when you call the bit set, it was giving you the right bit of that byte instead of the leftmost bit of the leftmost byte. I think both of these are wrong. But yeah, fixing this meant deciding whether we wanted to use this model of data as 1 million bits or 125,000 bytes, and that these are two different things. The bug appeared mid-refactor. Enough about the bugs. I want to see the chaos of how this went. I was going to read the article, but since he wrote the article, he published a video. And I am very excited because, again, this is one of those rare, like, super creative minds. Finding these people is incredibly, incredibly unusual. Having them do something like this, get discovered, and then share this with everybody is even cooler. And this is his first ever video. I immediately subscribed. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to hit the bell button because there's no way this dude is going to post a video unless he's doing something else similarly groundbreaking. And I want all of y'all to sub to him as well. I'm going to go put his channel link in the description now because if my view count on this video is higher than his sub count, I'm disappointed in y'all because this type of genuinely novel approach to building cool, unique things on the web and then sharing it is something that we absolutely need to celebrate. He did something genuinely special here, and I want to make sure he's set up for success the next time he does something like this. Let's give this video a watch. And also, if you want, feel free to go watch his video first and come back to see how I react to it. Your call, but at the very least, if you haven't subbed to him at this point before I hit play, I'm unhappy with you. Let's dive in.
So recently I thought my most popular project had been hacked. The project was called 1 Million Checkboxes, and if you haven't seen it, it was a website with 1 million checkboxes on it, which you probably could have guessed. But
he summarized it in 11 seconds. It took me like 5 minutes. Special brain. Especially, do you know how hard it is to make something that complex and still talk about it in simple terms? Most people, when they build something complex, they can't take the complexity out of their head long enough to explain it. They just say all the details and not the thing that it is. So that's like it's a silly thing to call out this early, but the fact that his brain works that way, where he can put all this effort to build this complex thing and still give you the simple part. Founder mode. We spotted founder mode. Anyways.
The trick to the website is that all of those checkboxes were global. Checking or unchecking a box, checked or unchecked it for everybody else in the world immediately. And I built the site in like 2 days. I really didn't expect it to be very popular, but I was super, super wrong. Within hours, there were thousands of people on the site. Within days, there were 500,000 people on the site, and people checked over 650 million boxes in the 2 weeks that I kept the site.
650 million boxes checked. That's like 1/10 of the global population. That's a level of traffic that most of us will never comprehend. All for a silly experiment like this. That's so cool. That's so genuinely fucking cool.
Online. Over those 2 weeks, it got a ton of media attention. I did interviews with the Washington Post and the New York Times. There's a Know Your Meme page. There's a Wikipedia page. It was crazy, and it was so fun.
It all deserved and more. Like, this is the first time like this has happened other than Infinite Craft since like the old Reddit r/places thing. Like it's been so long since we got something like this. My only concern is he feels like this isn't deserved, which is, I hard disagree if he feels that way because this is incredibly deserved.
So keeping the site online was a big, really interesting challenge. I wrote a long blog about it that I'm going to link below, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about this story. But to tell you this story, I need to give you a little context. I love to build experiences that let people interact with strangers on the internet. It's one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite things about the internet. But one big problem that I think about when I do that is that some people are assholes on the internet. And so I try to constrain that.
My face was covering, it says some people are assholes, period. Kind of funny that I was covering that up. Yeah, I can be a bit of a dick, but planning around that is hard. I don't know what direction he's going to go here, but it's part of what I would consider like the beauty of this project is it's much harder just on the surface area for an asshole to do something malicious with that. Like it is with r/place, people were doing nasty things with the graphics. It's like you're drawing. Like the worst you could do with this is draw an inappropriate shape with the checkboxes. And even then it's going to be hard to maintain it. So as a way of avoiding assholes, this concept is actually very, very clever. Somebody said in chat he's actually a Bennett Foddy. Yes. Yeah. Bennett Foddy. That way of solving things and coming up with things is just, it's so unbelievable to me. It's one of those rare times y'all are going to see me genuinely jealous of how someone else's brain works. Like, it's just, this type of creativity is so foreign to how my brain computes things. It's fucking cool. And I hope that my genuine hype around what he's doing is coming off, because this is one of the coolest things I've looked at on stream and in a video, for sure.
Those constraints can take lots of different forms. I've built a website that crops video in real time to only show faces so that people can't show you gross things.
Knowing that Omegle just got shut down, that is a hilariously clever way of building an equivalent. I like this framing a lot.
And a phone number that only lets you say the words rock, paper, or scissors so that you can't say gross things. And those constraints tend to work pretty well, but one cool thing about them is that they produce some of my favorite stories based on how people work around, play with, or subvert.
I need one of these. I need a "this is foreshadowing" tag to put over myself on the rare times I think through my videos ahead.
Those constraints. So what was I worried about here with 1 million checkboxes? Well, I was really worried about drawing. I understand, and I bet you do too, what happens if you give the internet a public canvas where anyone can draw anything.
Beat me to it. As a safety engineer that worked on a lot of these things at Twitch, I had a thing I called the dick test. Like, how hard is it for the service to delete this if someone does it? So like, if you add a new way for users to upload images and someone uploads a dick, how hard is it for the admins to find that and delete it? And if you fail the dick test, you can't ship because I'm a dick and I'm not going to let you do it. It was a whole thing. But yeah, he's prepared.
So I tried to lock that down. And what I did was a little subtle. I made the number of checkboxes in a row scale to the size of your browser.
Genius. I didn't know it did that. I didn't really play with it enough to know, but yeah. It's funny. It's like, I fight this the other way really often, where I'm worried about, like, how do I make sure it looks the same at all aspect ratios? He's going the other way. It's like, how do I make it so this is so inconsistent you can't draw something? That's clever as fuck.
So here you can see I've written the word example, but it only shows up when I stretch this window to a very specific size. And what that meant is that if you wrote something rude on your phone, it wouldn't show up for me on my laptop, and vice versa. I think this ended up working great. We didn't get bogged down in gross graffiti, and because the constraint was pretty subtle, many people didn't even realize that it existed in the first place, which...
Something I want to comment on here that I just thought about this more. I wonder how many of these great, clever experiences people like him come up with that never get to ship because there isn't an easy way to solve the safety side. Like, how many ideas did he have that he gave up on early because there wasn't a clever solution like this around them? That makes me sad to think that the toxicity of the internet and the amount of assholes online has prevented more ideas like this from shipping. That makes me sad. I'm gonna have to think about that more.
I kind of like. All right, so depending on your background, this part's going to be a little technical. I promise it matters, so please bear with me. For 1 million checkboxes, I needed to store state for 1 million checkboxes, and a million's a really big number. I can't count that high. So I wanted to make sure...
I'm a JS dev. I can barely count higher than 15.
...to store the state for 1 million checkboxes efficiently. What I did is I said, well, a checkbox, that's checked or unchecked. That's just like a bit, right? Like a bit is either 0 or 1. So we'll just have a million bits that correspond to our checkboxes. Bit 3 will be 1 if checkbox 3 is checked, and 0 otherwise. So we'll just have a million bits in our database. There are 8 bits in a byte, so that's 125,000 bytes, 125 kilobytes. That's actually just not very much data. That's not the size of a song. Computers can totally handle that. So a couple of days into launching the site, I was exhausted. I had barely slept, and I had just finished rewriting the backend in Go with the help of my friend Elliot. And for some reason after that, I chose to dump my database. I looked at the raw bytes in an ASCII encoding. I don't know why, I just did it. And this is what I saw.
This is the part I was slightly spoiled on. This is when things get mind-blowing. See that? Catgirls.win. Also notice like some of these are wrong. Like there's a dash instead of a slash. There's a capital T here. Something's going on here. I'm so excited to see what and better understand it.
What the fuck is that? Catgirls.win was sitting there in my database and I panicked. I freaked out. I assumed I had been hacked, which I think was a pretty reasonable assumption.
I will say outright, if this happened to me, I would not have been smart enough to figure out what it was for a while, if ever.
I started searching through my code, searching through my logs, trying to figure out, did somebody log in? Is there a bug in my code? Is someone stuffing this URL into my database? Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. This is my most popular project. It is being viewed by thousands of people and I've been hacked, but I couldn't find anything. Everything seemed okay. Nobody had logged in. There were no bugs in my code. And then finally, wait. I looked at the checkboxes on the website that corresponded to those URLs. Like that H right there, that's a byte. So that's 8 bits, 8 checkboxes, those 8 checkboxes. And I realized for all the checkboxes that corresponded to these URLs, there was a repeating pattern. And if I changed something in that pattern, if I checked or unchecked a checkbox, the pattern immediately reappeared.
He accidentally made his own DEF CON puzzle. If you haven't watched the videos I did recently about my experience at DEF CON and the music box puzzle that I solved, there's a lot of overlap here for a lot of reasons. But it's funny to think that he had accidentally built his own version of that puzzle for himself that other people created using it as an interface. When you do something this novel, where you create a site with 1 million checkboxes anyone can change, you've created a platform for similarly weird creative people to do similarly weird and creative stuff. It's so cool that like what he created isn't just a single web experiment. It was a platform for weirdos like himself to make awesome weird shit. I love this so much. This is like the best of cat girl profile picture anime Twitter, but like so much cooler.
I hadn't been hacked. Somebody was writing me a message in binary. Now, the way that this works is a little technical, so again, please bear with me. But we can convert the data that we have in our database into letters. And the way that we do that is that we walk through that data 8 bits or 8 checkboxes at a time. And we look at the number that those 8 bits, that 1 byte represents. It's going to be a number somewhere between 0 and 255, and we can convert that number into a letter. There are a lot of different ways to do this, but one popular way, and the way that I happen to do it, is using ASCII, which represents a mapping from numbers to basically the letters that you see on your keyboard.
I have to say, like, what are the chances that he would dump his own database and run it through an ASCII transform and discover this? That has to be relatively low chance. And the fact that he did and then dug to figure out what was going on and all this happened is so fucking cool.
So someone was sitting there checking and unchecking boxes to form numbers that formed letters that spelled out this URL. And they were probably doing this with a bot to make sure that those boxes remained checked and unchecked in exactly the way that they wanted them.
That also reminded me, I got hit up by somebody who helps run this. They specifically wanted me to say more should join, and I should too. So I'm going to. And if you guys want to as well. Their goal was to break 1,000 people. Looks like they did that. Congrats. The boxes have been checked. I'm in. And if others want to join as well, you have the URL. I have no idea. I do not endorse or condone anything going on here. Just I respect them for reaching out and saying they want more people in it. Join if you like.
With a bot to make sure that those boxes remained checked and unchecked in exactly the way that they wanted them to. All right. catgirls.win/OMCB. Catgirls.win. Obviously, I click the link. And
when somebody gets linked to you from catgirls.win, like, is it phishing? I don't care either way. I have to know. With that domain, you have to know.
The link goes to a Discord, and the Discord is called Checking Boxes. So I joined the Discord, and someone is really excited to see me. And so we chat for a second, and then they ask me a question that blows my mind. Have you seen your checkboxes as 1,000 by 1,000 image yet? And I said no, and they showed me, and it looked like this. So there's a lot going.
Okay, I have to go on a tangent now because this just small-worlded the shit out of me. I did a video on my on my third channel, Theo Throwaways, that nobody fucking watches because it's my throwaway videos. Y'all might have heard of Noisha. Noisha is a roguelike game with one of the most interesting game engines ever.
Blah, blah.
Because everything in the game engine is physically rendered. So every pixel can be broken, moved, destroyed, interfaced with, and interacted with. It's one of the craziest game engine projects I've ever seen. The way things like everything here, you can break the ground and the particle physics all work. Like the engine is kind of what you're playing. It's not just a game. Like the engine is the game. The 1.0 trailer. I promise you guys this tangent is more than worth it. Yeah. If you remember the old like Dust game, like the Java applet in the browser, it was inspired by that and went 1,000 times further. The team has covered a lot of the cool things they did here at different like games conferences, discussing and breaking down how this engine works. It's super cool. It's super cool. But I promised a cool tangent. We're going to go further. The lead dev, actually, I don't know if he calls himself the lead dev because there's a small team now, but the guy who made a lot of the engine and came up with a lot of the concepts, Petri, is one of my personal biggest inspirations, especially with the thing we were talking about before about the old web. I would check this site every day during homeroom in middle school. Back in 2008, 9, 10. Every single day. The first thing I did when I started the day, there were 2 computers in my like homeroom room in middle school. And I would get there pretty early. And I and a random other person would take those 2 computers and just dick around, finding things online, playing games and whatnot. And the first thing I did every single day was check Clooney Games to see if we got a new game. Because every single month, he would make a new game. He decided that he wanted to try out new ideas for games and game development. So every month, he would spend 1 week building a new game out. And some of these were incredible. He had to add this disclosure on top for a reason. This particular game that he released in, does it even say here? I know it was 2007. It said it here, yeah. June 1st, 2007. This game broke me. It fundamentally changed my understanding of like what a game and a game engine was. Crayon Physics was a fun little game written in Flash, if I recall, where you would draw things with crayons and you had to get the ball to the star. It was so cool solving these physics puzzles by drawing random objects and having them interact with each other. It was so cool. And also remember, I was a middle schooler and these were all things I could download for free and there was a new one every month. So it was like I was getting constant free games that progressively broke my brain more and more and in different ways. And this one destroyed me. I couldn't stop thinking about and talking about this. Like my friends were annoyed with me in middle school that all I cared about was this fucking crayon physics thing. And this one did well enough that he eventually went all out and made this his first full game, Crayon Physics Deluxe. That wasn't just like a single game on PC you could purchase. He also released it on iPad. And I got to play this in middle school on the, we had these crappy, like, I think they were called smart boards that were really bad touchscreen interfaces with a projector that you would put onto it to like draw something in Windows on the fake whiteboards. And this let me play it on an actual whiteboard. And it was the coolest shit in the world. This like it's hard to put into words how much this impacted me and how much it made me think about what software was capable of as a kid. I probably wouldn't be a developer if it wasn't for the profound impact this particular game and this particular developer had on me as a kid. And earlier, when I was talking about this whole like old web thing, this is what I was thinking of the whole time. The era of the web where random shit like this would just happen. It spawned a whole subset of Flash games. It's the reason things like so many things came as a result of this. Like World of Goo happened because of this. That spawned a whole new era of indie games. Things like Scribblenauts happened because of this. That bridged a huge gap of like indie and unique concept games on real consoles. The amount of doors this opened for so many people is hard to put into words. So all I'm going to do is explain it for myself. This game, and Petri Puro in particular, absolutely changed my life, and I cannot properly detail how thankful I am for it. So as silly as it is to have a little Noisha logo drawn in their 1,000 by 1,000 grid here, that is confirming my whole thing here, which is that this is a resurgence of the web I grew up on. This is the magic of people just doing unique, cool shit and respecting the others who do it and learning from it and iterating on it. Like this crazy Discord of cat girls who made the text embed as well as these graphics at the 1,000 by 1,000 image. They could only do that because of the platform Nolan created with the Million Checkboxes website. But that's how all of these things feed in together. And that's what made this old web beautiful, is that people would come up with a crazy idea and then more people would iterate on it and it would evolve and develop and change and become all sorts of different things and create whole new ecosystems in the process. Like Petri is one of the meaningful like entry points to the indie resurgence. We might never have seen like indie games being as successful as they are today if it wasn't for Petri's genuine excitement to just come up with new game ideas and showcase them on his silly little blog that not enough people checked. And that seed was planted in a way that I don't know if we would end up here. Obviously, there's some butterfly effect here, like anything different in the past could have changed where we end up, but I'm genuinely not sure if these types of experiments would be happening today if it wasn't for the incredible innovation and impact that Petri had on these types of developers. And I would guarantee at least a handful of the people in that Discord knew who Petri was and were similar to me where they grew up on the same shit. And I really hope in the future there's enough things like this that the next generation of developers, especially the weird ones, could be inspired to keep being weird. Apparently they're saying hi in the Discord. Oh God, what else are you guys doing? Petri, I don't know if y'all are listening right now, but Petri fucking was one of the kings of the weird web. And that's the energy that this whole project has channeled. Six and is a legend of the old weird web. Even if it's a little sad they don't know who Petri is, it's really cool that they unknowingly channeled the same energy and helped this magical moment from the old web come back again. It's so fucking cool to see this all come around full circle. And I do really feel like this is the same vibe. The feeling I felt waking up every day, going to school just to hop on the computer and check if there's a new Clooney Games post. That feeling and that excitement is what this was. And yeah, I love this.
Going on here. We've got Be Gay Do Crime. Love that. But also we've got the binary message that we found. Above that, there's a base 64 version of the same message linking to the same Discord. Base 64 is what I used for transport.
I like they put a base 64 there too, just in case.
And finally, we've got a QR code with full error correction also linking to the Discord. The Discord was full of very sharp teens, and they were writing this message in secret with tens of thousands of people on the website to gather other very sharp teens, and it totally worked.
That's so fucking cool. I was a fucking dumb teen that kind of was above average when you consider like the people I was around, and that's how I found things like Clooney Games. This is the same thing. This is the old web. This is the thing that got me excited about the internet when I was a kid and got me into fucking software. It's so cool that there's now a bunch of this new era of kids who found each other early on. It's weird having all of these random things and tangents I came up with early on come together like this, but like the same way he could find Neil and be friends and come up with these crazy things together, these kids could use his site as a platform to find each other. It's so cool. It's so cool.
There were 15 people when I joined, over 60 people in the Discord by the time that I left. I tried to make it hard for them to draw, but they said 1,000 times 1,000 is a million. No problem. They found a way, and they started drawing some very cool things. They put a Windows blue screen of death on the site. They put...
Okay, that's fucking hilarious. That's so good. I'm sure the QR code still links to catgirls.win. I have to confirm that. Just who I am as a person, I have to know. No, that one's the actual Windows error one. They actually put the receiving blue screen, like the full actual official like blue screen page from like Microsoft. Like it's the actual same one. That's almost funny. That is funnier. God, that's so good. That's so good. The bottom one, I know that one does go to their Discord, but the fact that this one is the actual QR code you get when you blue screen on Windows is fucking hilarious.
Sexy Jake Gyllenhaal gifs on the site. At the end, I removed.
Oh, Lily in chat is the one who made it. Thank you. You did that. It's hilarious that you made something that's like 100% accurate. That's so good. This whole thing is so good.
Moved all my rate limits for an hour as a treat, and they did a real-time Rickroll across the entire site. It was sick. It was so cool, and I found this so moving.
That relationship to the fact that he like removed the rate limit to let these kids do their thing because he was excited to see what they would do. Because the whole reason he had these limitations was out of concern people would abuse it. But the people who abused it, because of those rate limits and all of those protections, they built their own culture around abusing it in a really cool and clever way. So then he got to remove those barriers and all of a sudden they could do anything. That's so cool. To go back to the Petri thing, he was very limited about what you could do with Flash and what you could do with these like browser engines and games, and also what he could do in a 7-day window. So once one thing went better than he expected, he got to remove all of those limitations and go all in on it. And that idea of excitement coming from the box you're in, an opportunity coming from when you finally break out of it, is so real. And this shows like that's where real creativity happens. Like there's always been a meme that like creativity happens when you have limitations. It's absolutely true. And these people were so creative when they had the limitations. They had built a mental model and framework for applying that creativity. As soon as you removed even just one of those limitations, they got to go insanely far with it. It's so fucking cool.
As a kid, I spent a lot of time doing dumb stuff on the computer, and I didn't get in too much trouble when I, for example, repeatedly crashed my high school mail server. There's no way that I would be doing what I do now without the encouragement of people back then. So providing a playground like this, getting to see what they were doing, provide some encouragement, say, hey, this is amazing, was so special for me. The people in that Discord are so extraordinarily talented, so creative, so cool. I cannot wait to see what they go on to make. So that's...
Ending videos is hard. You just got to come up with a boilerplate and reuse it, or just not. So, yeah. I will say, like, this has been insanely well-paced, almost to the point where, like, I feel bad pausing, because this is a fucking phenomenal video, and a phenomenal... This whole thing is so... I just need to shut up and let him talk.
That's my story. I've never made a video before. I'm trying to decide whether this is something that I want to do. So if you like the video, like it. Let me know.
Easy. Say less. Do this more. This is so cool. I'll let you finish, but please make more videos and make more cool things. This whole thing is dope. And just having a human to relate to through it helps. The article and the tweets were cool. The project was even cooler. Seeing the genuine human and emotions behind it, that's the coolest.
No. And if you've got feedback for me, I'd actually really love to hear that too, but it's the internet, so be nice about it. If you want to keep up with my work, I make YouTube shorts about the games that I create, so you can subscribe to me here. And I've also got a mailing list that I'll link below, so you can follow me that way if that's what you prefer. Finally, I've got a website where I write detailed technical blogs about what I create, and I'll link that too. But regardless of what I end up doing, thank you so much for watching. This was such a special thing to get to experience, and I'm really, really excited to get to share it with the internet. And I'm going to keep making games no matter what. The internet can still be fun.
I was doing a good job holding it together. That last line fucked me up. Like, I'm so goddamn lucky. And it's people like Nolan and Petri and that stupid fucking Discord of crazy cat girls that put me in this position and let me do what I do. Like, it's silly to get like that. I'm actually tearing up over 1 million fucking checkboxes, but I am. The internet being fun is why I'm here. This is so fucking cool. This makes me feel like a goddamn kid again, in the best sense. Thank you, Nolan. Thank you, everyone who got us here. I got nothing else. Keep making fun stuff, y'all. Peace, nerds. 1 billion. Oh, God. Oh, God. Zoom out. Never change. I really need y'all to never change. That's a goddamn special project. I really hope there's more things like this.